Hi everyone, welcome back and hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking about trophies, believe it or not. We're going to be talking about two things. At the end of the video, I'm going to be talking about an update, kind of a mid-year check-in on where I am in terms of my trophy goals. If you haven't watched it, I put out a video several months back of, kind of my plan for trophy hunting through the rest of the year. I'm going to do a little bit of a check-in and see how we're doing. Am I on pace to meet that? Is it realistic in any way? Am I going to accomplish getting the 36 platinums or the 36 games completed that I set out to complete? And then on top of that, we are going to be doing, in the front half here, our June check-in on all the trophies that I earned in June. So I think we're just going to jump right into it. We're going to do it a little different than we normally do. Usually, I don't have anything up on screen. I'll just kind of talk you through them and I'll pop up trophies as they make sense. In this case, I think because we're also going to do the check-in, we're going to try hopping over into PSN profiles and actually looking at the trophies. I tend to avoid doing this because there's, potential for spoilers, but I think most of the games I played this month, there's not really much of a potential for spoiler, with maybe one exception. So we'll just be a little cautious about that and see how it goes. So please let me know if you prefer this format, and maybe we can make it work and stick with it in future months. But this is where we started. We start the month June 1st, 2024, and I was working on Sekiro. So I teased this a little bit in the last check-in video, but I set out to get the Sekiro Platinum, which was kind of a big deal for me because Sekiro is a game that I have not always been the biggest fan of. I love From Software games, don't get me wrong, and I liked Sekiro, but I kind of felt like it was maybe not their best work, or it didn't click with me in the best way. I totally acknowledge it's a completely well-made game. I just got a little bit there's a little bit of friction between me and how they wanted me to play. It's very different from previous Souls games where you have to very much learn exactly what they want you to do and execute on it perfectly. Unlike other games where you can grind up levels, or you can change your build, or in Elden Ring you can go explore other areas. Here you really have to commit to getting good at the parrying system, and it's just brutal. But I did want to go back, give it another shot, and work towards the platinum. And as you can tell from these, early trophies here, we were able to beat all of the bosses, including the Demon of Hatred, including many of the optional bosses. And that sort of comes hand in hand with getting, I got the Shura ending, getting multiple endings. So if you've never gone for the Sekiro Platinum before, you have to do basically 4 different playthroughs. Technically, you can do it in 2, but I would say do it in 4. And we'll talk about why that is in a little bit. But in terms of the 4 playthroughs, the primary reason for that is that there are 4 different endings you can get. I would say there's almost kind of 3 good endings that are all based around decisions you've made and items that you've found in side areas. And then there's one kind of bad ending where you choose an option that's pretty clearly the wrong choice. And so that was the last ending I needed to get here, was this one, which is the Shura ending, kind of the evil Jedi route, basically. But in terms of the game overall, my second playthrough and on really improved my opinion of Sekiro. I think New Game Plus is actually a really well-balanced difficulty, kind of the ideal case for me that I would recommend people do, except it's impossible for you to do reasonably, is play Sekiro and then 5 years later play it on New Game Plus. So you've forgotten a lot of the bosses and mechanics and stuff, but you have the New Game Plus health, abilities, and a little bit of muscle memory to lean on. Those two things combined really did help. And so playing through now again, I ended up really liking my time with the game. I think Sekiro is really quite good. It improved my opinion quite a bit. But as you can see, I didn't actually get the platinum here. I was just working on it on the 1st of June, getting some of those endings and things like that. Some of those trophies will probably show up here in a little bit. Then I was working on Bastion. So I have a podcast called Indie Quest where I talk about indie video games. There's a link to that in the description if you're into podcasts. And we were starting a Supergiant retrospective. So we're going to talk through each Supergiant game in order of their release, starting obviously with their first game, Bastion. I had played this game on 360 arcade years and years and years ago, but I had never actually played the PlayStation version, and I hadn't played it since it came out. So that's over a decade at this point. So it was an interesting game to go back and finally revisit. And obviously to go for the platinum, you have to explore areas of the game that I had not explored my first time through. So you see there's all of these trophies tied to completing various dreams and doing it with 5 or more shrine idols invoked. So the best touch point I have for these is their difficulty modifiers, very similar to like Heat in Hades. So if you've ever played Hades, you know you can add heat levels to make bosses have new moves, or enemies have shields, or enemies can drop bombs when they die. Just a bunch of difficulty modifiers to make the game harder. Those started in Supergiant's catalog as early as Bastion, and there's 10 of them that you can enable. So things like giving them more health, or making it so they randomly block your attacks or randomly go invisible, that type of thing. And you have to turn on all 10 of those idols and then beat these dreams, which are kind of like arena-style gauntlets. It's waves of enemies. These earlier ones, like Singers and Survivors, are like, maybe 10, 12 enemies. But man, you get later on and they get ridiculously hard and ridiculously long. We're talking like a 30 wave thing of some of the hardest enemies and like sub bosses in the game, with all these difficulty modifiers turned on, and the hardest fights are at the end. So you have to like play it really safe, really be on top of things, because if you fail, that's like a 20-minute run or more that you're going to have to redo. It is really painful. And so you can see I actually cruised through them pretty quickly here. I got them kind of like 1 per hour. I only died 1 or 2 times. But then you get to the Stranger's Dream. Stranger's Dream, that is the hard one. And that one took me 4 hours. I was playing continuously during this time. I just 4 straight hours of attempts. Go, 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 go. But I was eventually able to do it. Had a build that I really liked that gave me some healing back, and, used the mortar for some AoE damage and stuff. And I was able to get through it. So we'll hop to the next page here, and if we scroll to the bottom, you can see I cleaned up kind of the rest of this, and ultimately we earned the Platinum Trophy. So you have to beat the game in Score Attack mode / New Game Plus. When you beat Bastion, you unlock Score Attack mode, which basically adds point values to the combat, and then you need to play through again in Score Attack mode to earn 1 million points across all the levels. If you do your playthroughs of the Stranger's Dream and those other dreams in Score Attack mode, you're pretty much guaranteed to get this, because you'll get like 400,000 to 500,000 points in just one of those arena runs. And so it happens pretty quick. And thankfully, the Score Attack mode also counts as a New Game Plus run, so you don't have to do 3 playthroughs, you only have to do 2. And you have to do 2 anyways, because there's a choice at the end of the game and you have to choose one or the other. And so once you've gotten the Stranger's Dream, it's pretty much a coast from that point on. You'll be able to get it no problem. And so on the 2nd of June, I was able to clean up that Platinum and unlock it, which felt pretty good. And I did this in the Vita version, by the way. That's the version I had on PlayStation. I had the physical version of Bastion on Vita, so that's where I played it. And it played pretty well. A little bit of slowdown here and there, but really not too much. And then the next day, shortly afterwards, you can see I earned the Height of Technique trophy and ultimately the Sekiro Platinum. So Height of Technique is definitely the worst trophy in Sekiro. It seems innocent enough, acquire all skills, but there is not nearly enough upgrade materials, first of all. Actually, there's enough upgrade materials for all of your various upgrades for your prosthetic arm, so ignore what I just said there. But in terms of skills, you will not naturally get enough skill points to unlock all of the skills in 1 playthrough, or 2 playthroughs, or 3 playthroughs. And so you end up having to just farm enemies, like find a loop of enemies to farm the currency and unlock skills without having any real challenge or anything. And that's why earlier when I said you should do 4 playthroughs instead of 2, it's all down to this trophy. Because every time you beat the game and do a New Game Plus, the enemies drop more currency when you kill them. And so it's technically you're able to save scum, download your save and stuff, get all 4 endings in 2 playthroughs. but the enemies will be dropping less experience, and so you will end up having to farm for longer to unlock this trophy. And so in terms of like time optimization and generally just in terms of fun, it's way more efficient or way better to just do 4 playthroughs and then farm up the rest of them on the end of your 4th playthrough. Even still, I ended up having to do like several hours of just skill grind farming, which is dumb. It should not be in here, or they should have like lowered the cost or something. It really is kind of a bummer trophy. And you can tell from the percentage, right? Like 28.5 have that trophy and 28 have the platinum. So pretty much everybody that got the platinum was sort of gate kept by not wanting to do this farm. So not the best, but I'm really proud to have that Sekiro platinum. It feels good. You know, Souls platinum percentages are always weird. You know, 28% is ridiculously high for how hard this game is, but you know, Souls fans are freaks, and and they are very dedicated to their games, and they go for the platinum. So it's not really surprising to see that. Then I kind of got into a bit of a Tony Hawk kick. So I booted back up Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 because I wanted to do the online trophies. So, you know, I've been giving a little bit of consideration to how many trophies I have on games that have online servers that might go away. Mirror's Edge Catalyst really, you know, springboarded this for me. And there's not much that you have to do in Tony Hawk, but that you do have to upload a park to their online server. And then there's some challenges that have online components to them for a different trophy that's kind of unrelated to online play overall. And so I went in and I uploaded that park to get that done. And then while I was in there, I just kind of got back into it. So I started cleaning up trophies that I hadn't cleaned up yet. You know, I got a really high score on a classic park. I achieved a perfect score on a competition run, which I'm surprised I hadn't done in the past. Spent 10,000 in the skate shop. You can tell that I wasn't really super into trophies at the time I first played this because I had enough money. I just hadn't spent it. So I just needed to spend the money I'd already earned in order to unlock that. So I did some of those, and that'll come back up again later. So keep your eyes peeled. But I took a little break to play Astro's Playroom. So I'm very excited that Astrobot is coming out, a new full-length 3D platformer starring Astrobot. Perfect idea. We've been hoping for it for so long. And as part of that, something that's really cool is they're going back and retroactively adding trophies into Astro's Playroom, the game that comes free on everyone's PS5. And they're just kind of like hidden characters inside the existing levels. Right now there's only one, and it is a kind of a Bloodborne Easter egg reference that you have to find in GPU Jungle. And you can't find the other 3 right now, or other 4. And so they'll probably release that, I imagine, like 1 a month up until September when the game comes out. But it's just nice to be getting Astro's Playroom trophies again. Obviously, I'm going to get those to keep my 100%, and I'm so pumped for that game. I'll definitely be playing it day 1. And so, yeah, I think that's perfect. Very, very cool to be able to do a little trophy hunting in Astro's Playroom again. Then we went and did a little more Tony Hawk's trophy hunting. You know, got all the stat points for a pro skater. I ended up playing through both campaigns, 1 and 2, two and a half different times for various trophies, and just because I was having so much fun doing it. So then I moved on to a game I've had in my PSN library for a long time, which is Castle on the Coast. This is a game that's been recommended to me multiple times by my good buddy Ari Louie, on YouTube. Go check him out. He actually just put out a great video about his journey to 100 platinums. So if you're a trophy fiend, he's got a real nice meaty video for you. I'll link that video down in the description. But he's been recommending this to me because he, like me, is a big 3D platformer fan. He's got good taste. And this is kind of an under-the-radar 3D platformer. You play as this giraffe, which I believe is the mascot of a children's hospital. But he also looks a lot like Jeffrey, the mascot from Toys R Us. So pour one out for Jeffrey. And it's got a little bit of a parkour element to it. So it's, you know, kind of traditional 3D platforming, but you do have the ability to like wall run, and it's the type of game where with some creative movement you can kind of get anywhere. You know, you can stand on just the tiniest outcropping ledge, or you can you kind of work your way on top of geometry that it doesn't look like you can stand on. So you have a little bit of a creative expression in your movement in a way that's fun. Little hint of Mario Odyssey in there too. So it makes it for a really genuinely fun and great time. And so I played through, I'd say about 2/3 of the game. And then on the next day, I worked through the last little bit and unlocked everything. It's a pretty traditional trophy list in terms of 3D platformers, which is great because I love that type of trophy list. It is collect everything and then do a couple of miscellaneous things, but it's really not too bad to collect everything. The game has an in-game compass that points you in the direction of the collectibles that you don't yet have, which is really nice because it means you don't need to follow a guide or anything to clean everything up, which is perfect. You can just go in and enjoy. Tragedy that there's on PSN Profiles only 52 achievers for this game, but those that have played it seem to really like it because almost half the people have the platinum, and it is a great game, totally worthwhile and totally worth checking out if you're a platformer fan. So it's my recommendation. All right, and then we move on. I spent more time playing Tony Hawk, played Graffiti. I was doing a lot of online matches for experience and just to have fun, and so I got this one kind of naturally as a result of that. And then 500 objects in Creative Park. You just have to go in and drop a bunch of rails. It's really not too bad at all. I had a little bit of free time on a weekend where I was off at a coffee shop, and so I brought my Vita and a Super Beat Sonic, which is a rhythm game, kind of similar-ish to DJ Max or the Persona games. It's a type of rhythm game where the notes come in from the center onto a ring on the outside, and you have to press buttons in time to that. I love rhythm games. I'm always down to play a good rhythm game. And so I popped this in and just kind of cleaned up a couple of the easier trophies I had never done while I was otherwise just sort of playing through and having fun. So you have to complete the tutorial 5 times. I don't really know why. I just let that run. Change your DEC J icon 20 times, which is really easy. And then 6 tracks FX cleared. So there's multiple difficulty modes that basically map to how many buttons you have to press. So you can do a 4-button, 5-button, 6-button, or 6-button FX mode, which adds in the shoulder buttons. And so I hadn't actually unlocked that mode to play it. And so when I unlocked it, I went ahead and I did that. And I don't think I got any more trophies in that game from that point on. There might be 1 or 2 more, but really that was sort of just I popped in and out type of deal. I'm not super focusing on this game, but I'll probably keep playing it. It's a pretty long platinum though. It just basically comes down to playtime. There's a trophy I think for 1,000 plays of different songs or something, so something you can only really get over time. Then I had on my list of to-dos that we'll talk about here at the end of the video, I had Psychonauts and the Rhombus of Ruin as something I wanted to go back and clean up. If you've never played this game, it is a sort of VR spin-off in the Psychonauts universe. It takes place between Psychonauts 1 and 2. And it's really just kind of like a puzzle narrative adventure game. You use your abilities to leap into different people's minds to change perspectives. So that's how they handle teleportation movement. You're always can only teleport to certain places, and then you'll use different abilities like telekinesis, pyrokinesis, stuff like that to solve different puzzles. I had already beaten the game in the past, and so I just had some miscellaneous trophies I had never gotten. And so I just booted up Chapter Select. I spent an hour or so in there and unlocked all these sort of random different trophies and things. This one was fun. The Brutal trophy, create a spiked leather jacket. That is in a reference to the game Brutal Legend, which is cool because, it's a Double Fine game. Both of them are Double Fine games and Tim Schafer games. So it's nice to see that. I liked Brutal Legend back in the day quite a bit. And then just did a bunch of, various things that you just maybe wouldn't intuitively do your first time through. And I unlocked, there's no platinum for this game, but this gave me the 100%. Then you can see I'm back on my Tony Hawk grind. We earned the Veteran Challenge Collection. This is the trophy I was talking about when I said that you have to do some online components. So the way that these challenge collections work is there are different challenges in the game, and then different sets of those challenges combined make a collection. And there's 3 tiers. There's Rookie, Veteran, and Legend. And so to earn the Veteran Challenge Collection, you had to sort of like max out stats on one character, you know, do a bunch of unique special tricks and things like that. But one of the subsets was sort of like multiplayer focused. And technically, I don't think you had to do any actual online stuff that would necessitate the servers to do. I think you could have done all of the stuff you needed to there using 2 controllers and or like remote play and playing multiplayer locally. But I wanted to do the multiplayer because I enjoy the game. And so I unlocked those multiplayer stuff, or those multiplayer trophies that you saw earlier, which helped me work towards getting this Veteran Challenge collection. And then I just couldn't resist more Tony Hawk, so I unlocked every alien plushie. There's one of those hidden in every park in the game in really kind of out of the way spots. So I just went and tracked those down, you know, watched a video to see where they were. Unlock Officer Dick. You get that by maxing the stats on one of the pro skaters, which you'd think that I would have already done at this point, but in reality, I had maxed the stat on my Create-A Skater, which is the first character I played with. And so you don't actually unlock Officer Dick doing the Create-A Skater. You have to do one of the actual named pro skaters. So I replayed through the game and got all the stat points with Tony Hawk. And that unlocked Officer Dick. And then earned 5,000 points in Trick Attack across all playtime and 2,000 points in Combo Mambo across all playtime. These both just came naturally from doing those online multiplayer trophies because these are different game modes that you play in multiplayer. And so I was able to get both of those just by having fun and goofing off playing multiplayer. And then we have, I'm going to just peek up here, because this is the one game I'm not going to spoil stories for, is the next one. And that is Deliver Us Mars. So this is a game that I've been really looking forward to playing and finally got around to. It's the sequel to Deliver Us the Moon. And if you play Deliver Us the Moon, you know it's a pretty short experience, pretty dang fun, cool kind of outer space adventure puzzle game. And Deliver Us Mars is the direct story sequel to that. So you play as a different main character, but a lot of the characters that showed up in the first game are here. It is continuing the same storyline. It takes place, you know, several years after, but following the same events. And since I love Deliver Us the Moon so much, I was really excited to check this one out. This is also available, I believe, on the PlayStation Plus Extra, so if you want to play it there, you can. I'm not going to show you all the trophies for this because I don't want to spoil the story events for you, and there are definitely trophies tied to story events. But all you really have to do is there are trophies for playing through every chapter, which aren't that hard. There are a bunch of different types of collectibles, but thankfully the game tracks them in a really convenient way, and you can see in chapter select which chapters have collectibles that you haven't unlocked yet. Plus, it's the type of game that once you collect a collectible, it instantly saves it, so you can just back out and go to a different chapter. I just, exploring on my own, I found like 80% of the collectibles my first time through. But the bummer was that I missed basically one collectible in every chapter. So I went back to do cleanup. I almost had to do like an entire second playthrough. Not really, but like basically, just to get one collectible I missed in each chapter. When that happens, I'm always so grateful when the collectible I missed is early in the game, right? I'm like, or early in the chapter. I'm like, yes, I don't have to play through the whole thing. That's nice. And then on top of that, there were some like real light speedrun trophies. There's a couple different sections in the game where you're, either on a rover or doing some like repairs on a ship, and the game has trophies for beating them under certain time limits that basically, if you know that you're going for the speedrun attempt, you'll probably get it. It's just something you won't get naturally your first time, but with knowledge of what to do and any focused effort, it's basically no challenge at all. So I'm going to zoom all the way up past a bunch of stuff, and then we're going to sneak this window back down here. Also, sorry, the dark mode that I'm using inverts the title picture, and so you get, haunted Spectre Tony Hawk as a result. But I'm trying to keep your eyeballs from burning with no dark mode, or with dark mode. So you can see that, yes, I unlocked on June 19th all of the trophies, and I got the platinum. Great game. Happy to have both of the Deliver Us platinums. Unfortunately, that studio, they laid off their entire staff. This game must not have done as well as they were hoping. I would say it's not quite as good as Deliver Us the Moon, but it's still pretty good. So that's unfortunate. And the studio is now down to just like its 2 co-founders, and they do have a Kickstarter for the final game in this trilogy called Deliver Us Home. But I'm honestly pretty skeptical that it will ever see the light of day, which sucks because there is a bit of a, not a cliffhanger, but a bit of a tease, kind of a Metal Gear Solid style tease, a post-credits sort of like, whoa, okay. But for what it's worth, good game, ugly character models, but good game. And then I know you're confused because this ends on June 20th, but the last trophy I earned in June is Legendary. This is completing the Legend collection in Tony Hawk, which is definitely one of the harder collections. The main thing that slowed this down is you had to beat and max the stats on 3 different characters. You basically had to complete every challenge unique to a character for 3 different characters, which means every character has a challenge for unlocking every stat point, which basically means playing through Tony Hawk 1 and 2 on both of them and collecting everything. And then they all have a bunch of like unique basically runs that you have to do, certain point combos or certain move combinations that you have to string together or do under certain gaps and things like that. And so this just took me time to chip away at, and then I ultimately unlocked it. So now, in terms of going for the platinum, I still don't know if I'm going to because I only have 2 or 3 trophies left. Yeah, what the heck? I'll pull it up and we can take a look at it. Tony Hawk 1 and 2. So you can see I have all these trophies other than all the hard get-theirs, career level 100, 50 letters in horse, and complete all gap collections. So this one will just take a long time, but it's not too hard. You just have to do every gap once. 50 letters in horse. This is a game mode unique only to local multiplayer, which basically means I would have to grind out doing that with a second controller. But these 2 are the trophies that'll slow you down. All the hard get-theirs are really hard strings of moves and gaps together that you have to do. And this is what makes the game so challenging. These are pretty hard to get to work for a lot of them, this is what kind of holds people up from the platinum in a lot of cases. I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see how hard it is. I probably will try to go for this one. But then the other barrier is reach career level 100. So I've put 40 hours into this game or something like that, 30, and I've beaten the game 3 times now, and I'm only career level like 62. And the career levels are exponential. They take more experience the higher you go. And so this is just a massive grind. It honestly reminds me of that Sekiro grind, which is unfortunate. But we'll see. Once I get all the other trophies, will I be motivated to go for this one? Probably. But we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. This wasn't a game that I had planned on platinuming this year. It wasn't part of my goals or anything. So it's just sort of you got to follow your passions where they are, right? And then that ends on June 20th. Why is that, you ask? Well, that's because on June 21st, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree came out. And that game has no trophies, but I was not about to miss the DLC to Elden Ring, one of the best games to come out in the last several years. And I'm loving the DLC, Beautiful area to explore, massive open world, tons of like layers and interesting pathways to find and explore. The bosses maybe a little too hard, but there's ways to soften the blow a little bit and make it work. And yeah, I've already dumped 30 hours into that DLC. It's awesome. I'm sure many of you out there are also playing the DLC, so I hope you're having fun with it as well. It's a shame that there's no trophies, of course, but the game itself is so freaking good that it's like, well, it is what it is, And I look forward to finishing that one up here probably in the next week or so. If I was to guess, I'll get through Shadow of the Erdtree. But it's meaty. It's a meaty DLC. Honestly, they could have added like 2 or 3 more areas and just called it Elden Ring 2, and I don't think anyone would have complained. That's how big it is. It's almost a sequel. It's just absurd. But yeah. So that's where I am. This is where my trophy hunting ended for June. And so then that brings us, we're halfway through the year. Let's take a look at where we are in terms of my trophy goals. So if you'll recall, I, at the beginning here of the year, put out a video where I identified, the goal was to identify 30 games that I wanted to platinum or 100% by the end of the year. I wanted to have 100% trophies on these 30 games. In the end, I ended up choosing 36 games, so went a little bit higher than I intended to. But the way I see it is, you know what, maybe I can get to 30 of these 36 and I'll still feel pretty good about it. And so let's take a look at exactly where we are, what we've earned so far, and what is left amongst those games. You can see I've earned 869 of the 1,297 trophies. Now that's a little bit off because I earned some of these trophies a long time ago, but that's kind of where we're sitting. So why don't we order this by the progress, and we'll order it descending. And so at the top we can see all the games that I have completed amongst this. So I completed Mirror's Edge Catalyst. It's so nice to see these long timestamps, right? So it's 7 years, 9 months to clean up Mirror's Edge Catalyst. 8 years and 4 weeks to clean up Firewatch. That's so silly. But yeah. I went in when the servers were going to close and I did Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Had a really good time with that one. So that gives us 1 game that we've completed. Firewatch makes 2. That was a really easy one. Team Sonic Racing makes 3. Lumo makes 4. Talos Principle makes 5. Uncharted Lost Legacy makes 6. Psychonauts, which I just talked about, makes 7. Sekiro makes 8. Deathloop, I just did the DLC on that one. That makes 9. Race the Sun, I talked about this in a previous video. I actually talked about all these in a previous check-in videos. So if you're curious about any of my thoughts on basically any of these games and their platinums or 100%, you can check out, I have a playlist on my channel of all my trophy hunting videos. You can check out that playlist and hear me talking about these on my monthly check-ins. So Race the Sun makes 10, Trover makes 11, Touch My Katamari makes 12. And that's where we are. So I have done 12 of my, let's call it 30 games. So I'm 3 games behind coming in the halfway point, which is a little scary because I feel like I've done some of the easier ones, but let's take a look at what's left and what I realistically am, or what I'm making progress on, or think I could realistically do. Operation Tango, we actually did make some great progress on this. Again, me and Rilui, we went in and unlocked the platinum on this, which I didn't have previously. We just need to do the DLC. And so we've actually started the DLC. We just have to finish it. He and I will probably do that in the next couple of months, if I was to guess. I just have to get off my butt and actually schedule some time with him. He's got other stuff going on in his life. He's going to be a dad. He's going to be a dad in November. Shoutouts to Rusty. Hell yeah. I'm so happy for him. And then, let's see. I haven't done anything in Ghost Runner. I got to do the DLC. Control is DLC that I need to do. BlazBlue Continuum Shift. So this one is... I'm actually not that far off from it in some ways, but I'm also really far off from it in others. You can see all my trophies were earned in 2010. So this is one of the earliest games I ever played on my account. I could do a lot of these. I actually did spend some time working on... which one? Complete 100 challenges. I spent some time in challenge mode actually doing some of these several months ago. But the problem is that you have to reach, decode level 50 on the network. The servers are still up, so I should do this, but it's like, it would be such a grind. Some folks have actually offered to help me, which I really appreciate, but I just haven't found the motivation to actually work on that one yet. It would feel so good, though, because the first BlazBlue is my first platinum trophy I ever earned, so it would be really nice to have the sequel. And then most of these I have not played at all. I think Aquatic Adventure of the Last Human is one that I will play soon. I've been really hankering to go back to this game. I think that'd be a really fun platinum to earn, and it's pretty uncommon, so I'll probably do that one. My wife and I will definitely do Overcooked this year. We love that game. Oh, Pixel Rip 1989. Oof. I actually did play this one. I popped it in and played a bit of it. But this trophy right here, reach level 1 boss fight without looking at the gear kid. So it's a VR game where in the VR game you're holding a fake Game Boy and you're looking at it and playing a 2D platformer. And the idea is that you're sitting in class and you're trying not to get you don't want the teacher to notice you playing your Game Boy, which is a cool idea. But to do this, you have to reach the level 1 boss fight without looking at the Game Boy at all. And if you let even a corner of it appear in the screen, the trophy is null and void. And this first level is long, and you have to do some specific jumps. You have to do timed multiple jumps where you go on these springs and go back and go forward. It's not like you can just hold right and jump and pass through it. This is so hard. I don't know how anyone has unlocked this. I tried for a while. I think my best bet is probably to watch a video of someone playing through it and like mimic their movements. But it's also tricky because when you're looking at the Game Boy, you hear the game sounds, including the sounds of like you firing your weapon, you jumping, enemies dying, all that stuff. When you're looking away from the Game Boy, you hear the sounds of the classroom that you're in. So the teacher is always talking, the kids are making noise, etc. And you can technically hear the Game Boy, but it's really faint. And so you also don't really have good audio cues. So you have to do it without video or much in the way of audio cues at all. And so I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this one, honestly. It's so hard. It's a bummer because if you look up videos of people doing it, a lot of people will have videos that are like easy Daredevil trophy or easy Daredevil achievement. But in reality, they're playing the Oculus version of the game, not the PlayStation VR version, I think, or the Quest version, one of those two. And in that version, you can like take one hand off the Game Boy and you can like tilt it. Whereas in the VR version, your hands are stuck on the Game Boy and it's very static. You can only like pivot it forward and backward a little bit. And so they'll do this weird thing where they like one hand turn the Game Boy sideways and they kind of like look away, but in a way where you can still see the Game Boy in the corner, and then they'll just play through it looking at it that way. That doesn't work in the VR version. And so those aren't actually like a way to cheese this in any way. So you just got to earn it. I'll keep plugging away, but I'm skeptical of that one. Moss, Hyperblade Drifter, I haven't played either of those yet. Inscription, this is definitely one of the sooner rather than later ones. I love that game. I can't wait to go back. Demon Souls is definitely going to be one that I play soon. So I actually was going to do this one next, but then the Elden Ring DLC came out, and I was like, well, I shouldn't be playing Demon Souls and Elden Ring at the same time. So once I'm done with Elden Ring, I'm going to do this one next. I'm working on shipping away my Souls Platinum collection, right? I have so far only Bloodborne and Elden Ring and Sekiro now. And so this will be my 4th Souls Platinum. And then all the rest of these I have not done yet. Ratchet & Clank Going Commando will be a fun one to revisit, but I haven't tried any of these yet. Last Guardian will be a fun one too. So so that gives us 12 games that I have done out of 30, and maybe 2 that I are in the middle of, one of which will definitely happen, one of which probably won't happen. So we're a little bit behind pace. We're not quite where we need to be. And some of these games are not super short, you know. Ghost Runner won't be too long. Costume Quest definitely wouldn't be too long. Overcooked wouldn't be too long. But some of these, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, I don't think I'm even going to do that anymore. I just played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for 100 hours. I think this one might be one of the 6 that I have to pass on this year. Hyperlight Drifter is really hard. Yakuza Like a Dragon would take a long time, so I've kind of done some of the easier ones and need to buckle down. So we'll see how I do in the back half of the year. The one saving grace is that simultaneous and alongside doing this sort of like challenge to get 30 platinums or 30 100%. I should stop saying platinums, 100%. I've also been doing a bingo challenge for my other podcast, Polykill. And that has basically 3 bingo boards, so 75 total squares where you have to beat games that meet certain criteria. And I'm pretty close to being done with that. I've done like 60 of the 75 bingo squares, which has eaten up some of my time that could have gone to some of the trophy hunting too. So I think in the second half of the year, I will maybe have more time to focus on some of these things, because some of the other like retro type games I'm playing will take a little bit more of a back seat. But also the second half of the year is when all the new games come out around the holiday season, right? Like starting with Astrobot in September, there's probably going to be a lot of good games coming out that I want to play. And there's already a bunch of indies on and off PlayStation that have come out that I already want to play, like 1,000 Times Resist, Nine Souls, and multiple others. So we'll see. I'm still very much putting effort into this and trying in a way that is healthy and reasonable and still accounts for me wanting to play other games and have fun, because that's what this is all about, right? Trophy hunting is just all about having the fun. So that's where I'm at. And I think that'll do it for us. Let me know how you're doing on any goals you have for the year, and generally what you earned in terms of trophies for the month of June. And with that, I'll talk to you all in a week. Otherwise, take care.